Friends, welcome to Gord's Poetry Show number 49 and the Midsummer special. And the flowers would really like to be poems themselves and are anxious to be versified and stanzified. As you can well imagine. And Alice Oswald. We're going to continue with Alice Oswald. From her book, Weeds and Wildflowers. Published a few years ago and just swam into Gord's Poetry Show Snug Harbor. First published in 2009 with artwork by etchings by Jessica Greenman, and delightful etchings. And that's the book. And Violet. Recently fallen, still with wings out, she spoke her name to summon us to her darkness. Not wanting to be seen, but not uncurious, she spoke her name and let her purple, deep eye pupil be peered into. Violet, she said, and showed her heart under its leaf. Then she leant a little frightened forwards, and picked a hand to pick her. And her horrified mouse face sniffed and lifted close, let its gloom be taken, and all the sugar licked off its strangeness, while we all stood there saying, "Violet, Violet," fingering her blue bruised skin. Finally she mentioned the name of her name, which was something so pin-sharp, in such a last gasp of a previously unknown language, it could only be spoken as a scent. It could only be heard as our amazement. Here's Jessica Greenman's drawing and quoting of Blake's Auguries of Innocence: to see a world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. I don't know if that's close enough. How about that? Thrift. How about a thrift plant? Must be here somewhere. Born by the sea, used to its no-hope moan. 40 or thereabouts, lived on her own. Heaved a small sigh with a handful of stone. To get started, she saved up the rain. She came with her cushion to the cliffs. She sat, strained in the wind. in a pink old-fashioned hat. No prospect with the plunge of the beach. All except nodding, no speech. But she worked to the factory rhythm of the sea's boredom, its bouts of atheism, and by the weekend set up a stall of paper flowers and sold them all. So she made substance out of lack of substance. Hard of hearing, she thrived on silence. Next one is Narcissus, and here's Alice's, well, I don't know if it's Alice's handwriting or Jessica's pictorial portrayal of Alice's handwriting. Everyone's guess is probably better than mine. Narcissus. Once I was a half flower, half self, that invisible self whose absence inhabits mirrors, that invisible flower that is always inwardly groping up through us, a kind of outswelling weakness. Yet once I was half frail, half glittering, continually emerging from the store of the self itself, always staring at rivers, always nodding and leaning to one side. I came gloating up, and for a while I was half skin, half breath. For a while I was neither one thing nor another, a water flame, a variable man-woman of the verges, wearing the last self-image I was left with before my strength went down, down into darkness for the best of the year, and lies here crumpled in a clot of sleep at the root of all nothings. Ooh, that was good. Lily of the Valley. A white-faced, hanging her head, well-rooted woman used to live here, under the hips of the hills and the arms of the valley. Day after day, she stood here, hanging her head and letting fall her glances on the tilted surface of the river, which was in fact the exact diameter of the sphere of the valley, the very tip of the cone down which heaven was endlessly trickling. And trees, leaves, stars, everything was always running down through the stones to this lowest level of the lull between earth waves. And hanging her head, she said, "I'm not leaving this valley. I'm going to bury my feet in the earth. They'll never shift me." But they did. Fragile glasswort. What can have happened to fragile glasswort? She looked so controlled and thin in her green cotton skirt. But she rushed out suddenly and was last seen in the marshes, standing in gumboots, weeping huge, mud-troubled splashes. A build-up of salt in the gut. That's why she's so tearful. That's why her gaze is as stiff and composed as a crystal, till it frosts and dissolves. I don't know how to protect her. I always knew from her brittle remarks she was likely to shatter. But why does she not come back to discuss the whole business? Certainly she is blessed with a certain hard softness, rigid but liquid, so very tense and splintery you'd think she had a prong frozen into her of some ancient injury. No true cohesion. That's what I always said. I imagine she's out there still, sinking into the mud. I'll go out later with a cup of tea and see if she's any less fixed in her pressure and poise, internal and surface stress. Narrow-lipped Helberine. I'm worried about Helberine. So hard-worked, so discreet, so unhappy, so accepting, so reliable, and so mute. In her white nightdress, when she occasionally sleepwalks, she resembles a closed umbrella, punching her spokes. She is to me much less open and spreading than she has been, though sometimes, in a clipped, narrow-lipped tone, she mentions work matters into a machine, and I can hear the dark shaft of her throat going down and down. She speaks grey, as if under the shadow of some great regret, and yet will not say what, and I know, this is a swallow's nest on the ledge of her window that wakes her at 4 a.m., but she never says so. Just glances and blinks and shivers and pimples, and sort of wipes the words away between mouthfuls. She is to me much less talkative than she has been. She looks tired in the daylight, almost green. Alice Oswald, winner of the Gilder Prize just recently, and the backwards in time discovery of her work continues to thrill me. Rachel Campbell Johnson in The Times said, Oswald emerges as an inheritor of some of Britain's greatest poetic voices, an heir to Ted Hughes, Seamus Heaney, and Geoffrey Hill. And Jeanette Winterson said, Alice Oswald is making a new type of poetry. She is in the front rank of writers in poetry and prose who are not content to work only with what exists already. Weeds and Wildflowers, Alice Oswald, Jessica Greenman. I fancy going back about 400 years to Robert Herrick, who wrote these marvelously gnomic poems. Born in London in 1591, St. John's College, Cambridge, 1613, studied law at Trinity Hall, became a Cavalier poet before being ordained in 1623. Charles I, that was the fellow that got hung by the rebels, gave him the living of Dean Prior in 1629, where he wrote some of his best work, including Hesperides, published in 1648. He died in 1674. Now, by my rough arithmetic, that's 400 years. The departure of the good demon. What can I do in poetry, now the good spirit's name gone from me? Why, nothing now, but lonely sit, and overread what I have already writ. Bashfulness. Of all our parts, the eyes express the sweetest kind of bashfulness. To all young men that love, I could wish you all who love that ye could your thoughts remove from your mistresses and be wisely wanton like to me. I could wish you dispossessed of that fiend that mars your rest, and with tapers comes to fright your weak senses in the night. I could wish ye all who fry cold as ice or cool as I. That's some pretty tight rhyming couplets there. No fault in women. No fault in women to refuse the offer which they most would choose. No fault in women to confess how tedious they are in their dress. No fault in women to lay on the tincture of vermilion, and there to give the cheek a dye of white, where nature doth deny. No fault in women to make show of largeness, when there are nothing so. When true it is, the outside swells, with inward buckram little else. No fault in women, though they be but seldom from suspicion free. No fault in womankind at all, if they but slip and never fall. The silken snake. For sport, my Julia threw a lace of silk and silver at my face. Watch it, the silk it was, and did make a show, as if it had been a snake. The suddenness did me affright, but though it scarred, it did not bite. to his household gods. Rise, household gods, and let us go, but whither, I myself not know. First let us dwell on rudest seas, next with severest savages. No, salvages. Last, let us make our best abode, where humane foot as yet ne'er trod such worlds of ice, and rather there dwell than in loathed Devonshire. Now, isn't that interesting? Loathed Devonshire. Guess where? Guess where Alice Oswald lives? Devonshire. Oh dear. Hope she's not too upset at that. Well, here's a very modern one. Upon Julia's breasts. There's a lot of Julia poems in here. Display thy breasts, my Julia. There let me behold the circummortal purity, between whose glories there my lips ill lie, ravished in that fair via lactae. Well, well, well. On Julia's breath. Breathe, Julia, breathe, and I'll protest. Nay more, I'll deeply swear that all the spices of the East are circumfused there. To music. Begin to charm, and as thou strokest mine ears with thy enchantment, melt me into tears. Then let